We're going live. We're going live for a very interesting book study session. Welcome, everyone who chose to show up for this. John Lavenia here. Welcome to our book study group from Monday, the 18th of April, 2022. And we started a new book this week. We concluded, oh my goodness, I read so many books. Which book did we just finish last week? Oh, Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff.
Yes.
A legendary, informative book with many insights and good, usable stuff for anyone looking to be more persuasive and win the deal. And now we shifted gears into a book
We broke the clutch. We didn't
that Stewart couldn't get through the first chapter on without renaming. So I've never read this book before. I got through the first two chapters, which is I guess the introduction and chapter one, getting out of the gap. But the book is properly titled "The Gap in the Game" by Benjamin Hardy, with I guess quotes from his person that he's paid for coaching, which is Dan Sullivan, who started Strategic Coach. Turns out the author himself is a university trained psychologist, and he's got stuff to say. Not a lot to say, but there's hundreds of pages about, what he's going to tell you and get ready to tell you. The book has already been renamed by one of our members, who will remain anonymous, to The Gripe and the Groan. Did I get that right? Yes. So, but it's the Gap in the Game by Benjamin Hardy, and Dan Sullivan's name is on there too, because that helps sell books. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by reminding everyone, as Bob just reminded us before we went live, that the end result of everything we do here is not necessarily agreement. Okay, so that's not the product here, is that we get to agree. Okay, that's not the end result. Agreement has its uses, so does disagreement. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And then I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I do have some highlights, some things that I highlighted here. So, all right, let's go back to dedication, table of contents, introduction. Okay. Here we go. Says here, why most people aren't happy. This is the introduction. And he immediately comes out and takes issue with Thomas Jefferson, one of the most brilliant political philosophers of recorded history, and says that he penned the Declaration of Independence in 1776, and Americans have been unhappy ever since. So the book starts with a broad generality. Now, what do I know about broad generalities? You guys ever get around somebody who speaks in broad generalities? Well, everybody knows that nobody succeeds in businesses like that. I heard everybody talking about that over there. Everybody, or, everybody knows, or, that sort of, conventional wisdom. When people do that, there is a, well, it's terribly presumptuous, first of all, but also if a person's not listening, here's the psychology of it. It's something that you tend to not fight back against. This is a form of suppression, even, where seeds of doubt are planted. So he comes right out. His initial statement, his initial assertion is that Americans have been unhappy ever since. Now, I'll give him credit. He didn't say all Americans. He didn't say most Americans. He said Americans have been unhappy ever since. Okay, so technically that's correct. There are Americans who have experienced unhappiness since 1776. That's technically accurate. Yes, there have been some Americans who have experienced unhappy. Anybody here in the United States, you're American? Have you ever been unhappy? And was that post 1776? Okay, so here's my point. is that broad generalities don't serve us, and correlation certainly is not causation. So here he goes and says, and this is his whole argument in this opening chapter: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Pursuit. That happiness isn't something you pursue, which he contradicts later in the book many times. But he takes issue with the idea that this is something that we would pursue or not. By saying happiness is something we're pursuing, the direct implication is that we don't have it now. Okay. So in my experience, I am happiest, and I wrote about this in Integrity is Everything. I am happiest when I am in a state of on-purpose action. On-purpose action, pursuing, doing this. On purpose, meaning to fulfill some self-determined intent. For me, that makes me happy. I'm happy. What's the alternative? No purpose or no action. So sure, since 1776, there have been people who perhaps have been off purpose or inactive. We got 5 and 6 generations of welfare recipients here in the land of opportunity. Okay, so never mind the generalities. Okay, anybody here sitting around twiddling your thumbs all day, wondering what life's about, what you should do? I don't know what to do. And granted, knowing what to do and then getting on with it, right? And then discovering other things to do, ways to optimize, enhance, raise your purposes, play a bigger game, right? That's also what I would call the pursuit of happiness. What did Jefferson say? Life, okay, so you get to suck air too without getting taxed on the air. They haven't figured out how to do that yet. Liberty, that is your ability to go here, go there, not go there, right? To communicate, to not communicate. You're at liberty to do these things. Okay, so these are some basic rights of people, self-evident even, and the pursuit of happiness. What if Jefferson had said, you have the right to life, liberty, and happiness? Terribly presumptuous. Well, you have a right to happiness? Okay. So does that mean that if you're experiencing a moment of unhappiness, that someone is violating your rights? No, this was a letter written to a tyrannical and totalitarian king. All these interesting considerations. So if you think that's a stretch, a recent poll found that only 14% of American adults say that they're happy. Cite the source, please. Oh, and he does. National Science Foundation COVID response tracking study. March 2021. World in turmoil. I'm not going to get into the political aspects of it, but yeah, you want to talk to people in March of 2021? Which people? Okay. So I'm taking a lot of issues with, I haven't even gotten through one page yet. Now, I'm not blaming all American unhappiness on one of America's most important founding. Well, thank you, Benjamin. Thank you for giving Tom just a little breathing room. Okay, I got to speed this up. Okay, so what do we got here? When you're chasing happiness externally, it's because you're disconnected internally, and when you're disconnected internally, then you're trying to fill a gap. All right, I get it. All right, so he's gonna redeem himself a bit, and I'm interested to see where this book goes. Okay, so I get it. Is that you can't fill, a spiritual void with Lamborghinis. I get it. To state the obvious. Okay, now not so obvious. Common sense isn't so common. So thank you, Benjamin. That's good. A good datum. Thank you for that. And here he quotes his buddy Dan. And so the concept is sound. Is that the whole premise of the book is that we would be happier. I think Bob said this. We would be happier if we compared ourselves now to where we were, having not evolved to the point where we are at now, which is hopefully a gain, right? Versus the gap between where we are now and some imagined ideal. All right, what I haven't done. Very simple concept. Even after some massive victory, the mind quickly goes to the next unreached achievement. Sure. So if we're living in what he calls the gap, right? I'm here and now I'm further, but still I'm not there. And so, I'm not there. I suck, whatever. All right. Yeah, I get where people can do that. It can lead to a great deal of external success. No apologies for that. The problem remains unsolved internally. I heard it said in 12-step fellowships, right? For those of you who know, like Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, stuff like that, where here is, the drunkard who wants to get sober, and they have, there's a lot of emotion. Addiction is not a fun thing. Okay, in case you're vague on that, but like a lot of emotional turmoil and depression and all this. But there's a saying in those communities where you can't fill a God-shaped hole with alcohol or something like that, right? So here's we could say the spiritual void. And there's a spiritual aspect, to that, living sober and all this. But you can't fill that with the mind-altering substances, things of that nature, right? It doesn't fit in that hole. Another simplification and a way that, the drunk off the street can get it, can digest that, okay? So you will never find happiness. Despite your continually growing success, happiness and security will never be yours, because the gap mindset eventually stops growth altogether. Here's an absolute. You, reader, you will never find happiness. Well, thanks, Benjamin. All right. But for all your education, you hath not wisdom. So let's contrast this for a moment with Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, okay, where he does talk about achievement and a white hot burning obsession, right? And things that I resonate with. He goes against obsessions in here too. But he's talking more clinically. Yeah, there's OCD, right? Obsessive compulsive disorder. I get it. Okay. But the idea here in the way the book is presented, just as a book. Okay. Think of the generalities and the accusations that are being just in the writing style versus Napoleon Hill, who assures the reader, and we've all studied Napoleon Hill, right? He assures the reader, you can do this. Yes, you can. I believe in you, Mr. Reader. In fact, there's a secret in this book, and when you're ready for it, you're going to find it. And you'll never submit to failure again. You see the two different, by the way, one of the secrets in the book is keep reassuring the reader or your customer or whoever that you can have. Never invalidate. So moving on, this book will show you the only way. Oh my God. Oh, all right. I'm just going to stop talking. So he's got the only way. I mean, there's been philosophers for millennia, but thank goodness for Ben, because he found the only way. I'm done. All right. So who else has some thoughts on this? Can't even drink my coffee.
Well, I was telling Missy before that both she and I are old movie aficionados, and we like White Christmas. Okay, classic. The one with her, Danny Kaye and Bing Crosby, and there's a song in there, "Count Your Blessings." And I said we should just sing a chorus of "Count Your Blessings," because it says, when you're worried and you can't sleep, try counting your blessings instead of sheep. You'll find yourself falling asleep counting your blessings. When my bankroll is getting small, I remember when I had none at all, and I fall asleep counting my blessings. I mean, that's what this message is. Okay, and it's nice, it's comforting, and there's a large measure of truth here. But is it a way to get people to achieve? I don't know. I don't really know. The theory is, if you think about what you've achieved, you won't feel so rotten about yourself and you'll achieve more. Okay? Or put it another way, success is a journey, not a destination. So stop running. I mean, that's what it is.
Or have a good run.
Yeah. As long as you can run. you be happy running.
Yeah. Suit up, run. It's freaking awesome. Running, doing. And what's the whole point? Right? And this is where I think people can kind of sink into a depression with this. Well, it's like, well, should I be a goal achiever? Well, I'm told now that striving, well, no, right? I mean, it's like an unsolvable problem. So it says here, and Bob, this is, I think, what you're getting at. I advanced a couple of pages. It says here, and this I thought was useful. All right. So psychology has a term for this: moving horizon, hedonic adaptation. Okay. So it's the tendency of humans to quickly adapt to where they are and what they've got. All right. So not smelling the roses, not grateful. What's next? What's next? What's next? I'm not satisfied still. Okay. So that is, and look, I can identify with that. Sure. Little wins. I don't always stop to smell the coffee or whatever. I should do that more. A good reminder. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay. But never being satisfied and to constantly seeking the next thing. What did Waddles say, right? A deep sense of gratitude, right? That underlies, all of your each individual action, which you do with purpose and faith, right? This is what makes it efficient. That if you do efficient things, you've got to succeed. Catherine?
Yeah, I think he shouldn't have started off with the Jefferson thing. I think you guys all had a knee-jerk reaction to that, which I totally get. But
I almost threw up.
yeah, that was tough to swallow. And he might have a point on a few things. With Jefferson, I mean, look at how many times he tried to free the slaves and how much that bothered him all the way up until his death. So he may have had a few points on that. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, he didn't even mention
Missy shaking
the
her head no.
slavery thing in here, but yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just saying there were a few things that he tried to get to do that he didn't succeed with. Maybe that bothered him. I don't know. So I see what he's trying, what he's trying to put across. And I look at it that, with having been sick for so many years, is that if I concentrate on what I haven't succeeded with yet, that, yeah, it does put you into a really, really bad depression. You have to stop and look back and say, yes, how far have I come? So I see what he's getting into there. And that I liked. That I thought was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, he should have entirely left Jefferson out of this.
Well, it's fashionable, you see, these days to attack,
They're old dead white men.
Yeah, he's got an education, you see, this author. He's got an education. Yeah. So, okay. But, thinking of Jefferson, since you brought him up again, right, here's a guy who's attempting to get a lot done. Like it was, and he needed a lot of agreement from other people who were steeped in their ways. Now we agree on this stuff. Okay, well, if you're going to write that, if you want me to sign that, then, but yeah, the original, I'm sure Missy knows this. The original Declaration of Independence, like the drafts had something about, all people being, participate, or I'm not sure how he wrote it, but obviously it took another 100 years to make this more perfect union, a more perfect. He hadn't arrived. This isn't perfection. This is our declaration, present time, 1776. Okay, we got more work to do, but can we all agree on this?
Yes.
Right.
He didn't
had to
start
compromise.
slavery. He didn't start it. The first slaves here were Irish. I mean, it was so unnecessary. It has nothing to do with what he's talking about. He's blaming the whole of his unhappiness on Thomas Jefferson.
No, he said that he's not blaming all American unhappiness on one of the most
I said
important
his
factors.
unhappiness. He doesn't like is she here? He doesn't like the founders. The founders. He's a liberal, which is odd because Jefferson was a liberal. He should like Jefferson.
Well, no, that's when the word liberal
He was a
meant liberal.
classical liberal. Yeah.
Jefferson was
French
classical Revolution. No, that's not a classical. He was for the French Revolution, which was the biggest mistake he ever made. But he was for liberty's sake, not at any cost, and that was a problem. But that's another book. He just, it's like a downer. It's like a Danny Downer book. I don't,
Okay.
just read a few words and it's like,
Well, it gets better. It gets there. It gets better. There's a ton of filler and repeat but it gets better from here. Thank you, Catherine. So yeah, I mean, that's good usable stuff. Is to focus on, here's what's working rather than here's what I haven't worked out yet. Right. So here's the whole premise of the book. Are we valuing those experiences, or are we comparing our experiences to someone else's or what we haven't done yet? There's the gap. So when you're in the gain, you focus on what you've actually done. You measure your gains and use those gains to create more and better gains in your future. So somewhere in here, he paraphrased or did something with measure the gains, but basically the parable of the talents. Okay, so to him who hath shall be given, to him who hath not shall be taken even that which he hath. Right. So I'm grateful. I'm at a higher emotional state. I'm more enthusiastic. All right, because of what I have. Right. I have products to offer into the marketplace. I have experiences that have enhanced my life, and therefore I have. And I'm grateful for what I have. Now go forth. Okay. But for him who hath not, well, yeah, you're going to miss opportunities. You're going to lose. Right. So, etc. It says here, an experience only becomes valuable and useful once you've transformed it into a gain. Okay. Well, I could see where we learn from our mistakes. So that's a way to gain from, the so-called failure. All right. I get it. Many people have lots of experience, but very little learning. So yeah, it's a deliberate choice to learn and evolve, or you could just sit there and suffer and not recognize or acknowledge gains. Okay, it says here, yet the more you're in the gain, the less you compare, compete, or even care what other people think about you. That sounds kind of liberating, right? People who just go, they just reach, not with no no thoughts of how's that going to affect other people. So you're not on an island or anything. Okay. But not so fragile. Okay. So I like that, is that when you recognize and when you've got self-esteem intrinsically, I don't need you to validate me. I mean, but at the same time, right, we're social creatures, right? I mean, I wouldn't show up here if, everybody who shows up here hates me and offers me insults every week, right? So, right. I mean, yeah. So there's some John Lavinia psychology for you. Never mind what this guy says. Great. That's the end of the introduction. Next chapter, please. Embrace the freedom of wants. I want. Okay. Well, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Okay. Well, he's comparing it to needs. All right. So you got wants and needs, and he's saying wants are good, needs are bad in terms of your own feelings of dependence or not having this or whatever. Isn't it funny that today in our general session, Maslow's hierarchy of needs came up in our conversation? And it was also here in this chapter. He mentioned that. But here he's saying that happiness is not somewhere in the future. It says happiness is where you start, not where you finish. So happiness is not where you finish? No. Okay. Decades of scientific research is clear on this point. Happiness is where you start, not where you finish. No, wrong. Happiness is not somewhere in the future. Okay, well, now is the only reality. So now, yeah, be happy now. Okay, good. But you're going to finish at some point, and hopefully you'll be happy then too. Positive emotions broaden. This was interesting. Positive emotions broaden your options of thinking and acting. Totally agree. Totally agree. When I'm feeling good, I'm doing good, right? I've got more space, more reach, more perspective, right? And less encumbered. As an example, research shows people in high stakes situations make the best choices when in a state of gratitude. Okay, well, it's whether it's high stakes or not, right? Now we're on the same page, I think, right? Gratitude. I have, not I lack, I have. They could see more clearly the best option before them. Yeah. I mean, we're all going to see through filters. So we're talking about picking which filters now. And it's not always easy to do, right? If I'm pissed off and like fixated on something and now I got to go look at this, could I have clouded vision? Sure. But to think that I could completely get rid of all filters, well, that's, probably not. Okay. So, but let's pick some better ones. On the flip side, negative emotions narrow your options, leaving you only with a few rigid ways of handling a given situation. Sure, there's that tunnel vision, there's that fixation, that obsession, which I think he's going to talk about more here in just a minute. Prior success is actually what creates confidence. So here's what he's talking about when people are seeking to be more confident. He says psychology shows that confidence is not what creates success. Okay, well, what creates success? The progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Anyone who's in a very deliberate and self-determined action, that person's a success, according to Earl Nightingale. Okay, and I kind of like that. That's pretty great. Now, when we recognize successes, does that increase our confidence? Yeah, sure. We could cite Maxwell Maltz, Psycho-Cybernetics, where he's talking about, kind of resetting that autopilot. But we do this experientially. The exercises in that book are designed for you to be able to recognize your own ability, your own greatness. All right. So that's a book that we covered. So you can correlate it with that. Those successes is actually what creates confidence. What he missed in this sentence was the recognition and acknowledgement of those successes is what creates or increases confidence. Moving on, perhaps the most important byproduct of being in the game was that Jansen no longer needed to win. So he's talking about this guy who skater, right? And he got into the Olympics, but he kept, having blunders and, losing. And then he got to the point where it's like, this is my last competition, the final event. And then he's going to retire. I mean, the guy's getting older, whatever. And he was just like, you know what? I'm just focusing on, I'm grateful that I got to the Olympics, and, skating has done so much for me in my life. I'm just going to go out and I'm going to perform. And what happens, happens. So he released his attachment, which is something that he talks about now in this. He gets the word attachment in here once or twice in this chapter. As far as I'm concerned, that's the most important word, right? Attachment and non-attachment. And what he's citing as the difference between the need and the want. Now, you can still be attached to wants. He doesn't cover that in this chapter. But the idea that, I got to have it and I'm not complete without it and that sort of thing. If we can just like what we talked about in sales or in CLAF, in Pitch Anything, right? So eliminating the neediness of it all. Another way to say that is not being so damn desperate and attached. So going forth with intention, but not attachment. That's the trick, which I just said in one sentence. He took a whole chapter. What else? I don't think I have, something else here. Consider Trevor's words. I think you can have both. What he meant by both is having an intense commitment to succeed, intention, and having a healthy detachment for what you're doing. There it is. And it was from Trevor, not from this author. All right. Anyway, I kind of like having the ability to get really focused on something. You guys ever get into the flow with something you're really enthusiastic about? We could call it an obsession. Other people might say, oh my goodness, you're obsessed. Missy, you're up till 2:00 in the morning doing the thing. Well, you know what? I'm friggin' having a ball. I'm having a ball. Okay, so that's passion. But he's saying this is not a good thing. Obsessively passionate. And that you can't be in present time while having, an obsession. I don't think the two are directly related. You have a difficult time, you do, Mr. Reader. You have a difficult time being in the moment because you're so fixated on your obsessions. I told you guys the story of the boatyard dog when I was in the diesel thing in Staten Island, New York, and the dog was obsessed with rats. and it would sit there in present time, staring at the dumpster, waiting for a rat to show itself and kill instantly, right? Kill 2 or 3, sometimes 4 rats a night, right? Obsessed and in present time. So the two can go together. And I'm not comparing you to a dog, okay? But after reading this, it would probably be an upgrade. Obsessive passion is correlated with low self-esteem. Okay, I get where he's going with that. And again, he may just be using the psycho babble words that he was trained to use. I got it. Okay. Being in a flow state stems from intrinsic motivation. I like it. Intrinsic motivation, being in the flow. I'm having a ball. You may think I'm obsessed. I'm loving this. This is my work. This is on purpose action. A core aspect of harmonious passion. So harmonious versus obsessive is where he's going with this, where you're performing for the sake of the passion rather than as a means to an end. Okay, so here's the question for everybody then. The things that you get engrossed in and you have an intrinsic motivation, is it just for the end? Is it just for the money, the profitability? I see where he's going with this, and many others have said, if you want to be successful in this or that profession, right? Choose a profession where you've got natural, proclivities, passions. Okay, great. Let's do that then. Right. So I think where people, get a real cognitive dissonance is where they're showing up at the cubicle every day. Their job sucks. Their life sucks. I need the money. Right. So I get that. I get where he's going with that. So you can want something and be 100% committed to that thing without needing it. Intention, yes. Attachment, bad. This is the counterintuitive reality. By no longer needing what you want, you're actually far more enabled to get it. Back to sales. Okay. When I don't need the customer to buy, they're more likely to buy. When's the best time to make a sale? Right after you made a sale. Right? Space. Emotional liberty. To pivot, to extrovert, to listen, to not be so damn introverted, right? To extrovert, to hear the customer. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. Well done, Benjamin. When you're doing something that you genuinely love and you're doing it for yourself, then you're intrinsically motivated and have a healthy passion. You don't need to force things or prove yourself. Got it. Another book, Power versus Force. Dr. David Hawkins. Very different approaches. Powerful versus forceful. Powerful good, forceful bad. And here he gives us some questions, which I think were of use. I like this. So he says here, all right, it's time for another quick exercise. Pull out your journal. You didn't give me a journal, but I suppose I can get one. And answer the following questions. Are there any areas of your life where you have obsessive passion based on his definition? You're forcing yourself, or it's all about, the gap. It's all about where I haven't gotten yet. If so, what unresolved internal need are you trying to fill? Here's the drunk trying to fill the God-shaped hole with the alcohol, right? What about your life and work do you love? Good question. Good question. Thank you. So this is some good introspection here. What is your long game? When you're playing the long game, you're doing what you love. You're not doing something just to get somewhere else. So I'm here, I should be there. That's his argument. Well, we don't want to keep wanting to be there. So what's the long game, which makes it fine for you to be here right now? Now, that doesn't mean, or hopefully he doesn't mean, well, just be happy with what you got. Don't you know there's limitations to anything? I talked about this in Integrity is Everything. It's like, no, it's not friggin' okay. It's not okay that you're sitting there wallowing and being miserable and broke and everything else, but it's okay because you don't beat your wife or something. So I'm okay, you're okay. No, bullshit. It's not okay. All right. So all right. Do you have a long enough timetable to truly slow down and enjoy being here, or are you trying to quickly get there? So being here now. Stuart, as soon as I read that, I was thinking of Ram Dass. Be here now, right? Just sit there and shut up. Look at your life right now. What are all the gains you can think of? Good exercise, gratitude list. You He could have said, make a gratitude list. How would your priorities change if you were playing the long game? Doesn't mean that the short game is bad or invalid. Just means to think a little bit further ahead and not be so damn desperate. You act based on want, not need. So he's giving you a solution here. For example, freedom from is external. You're free from hunger. Freedom to is internal. You're free to choose what to eat. So that's an interesting, thing, a bit of psychology right there. A lot of people just talk about freedom from. They're always trying to get out of stuff. Well, it's very inspirational to move into stuff that you want. Freedom to do this, not just freedom from that. So I'm with him on this idea. Freedom from is lack of obstacles. You're not a slave to someone or something. Freedom to is the presence of control. You are your own master. In other words, you're causing stuff deliberately. There's, again, back to Earl Nightingale, what he talked about. Who succeeds? The one who's deliberately doing something they've decided they want to do. That's a success. Chapter takeaways. No thanks. All right, I'm done. I am done. We're going to read 2 more chapters this week, and we may continue the book. So, and our friend who recommended it isn't even here. So, again, it's not about agreement. It's about seeing what works. There's some workable stuff in here. I just wish he didn't have to come out against Tom Jefferson in his first words. So, and maybe that's my issue. You know what, TJ, as far as I'm concerned, was brilliant. Holy crap, this guy. Amazing. Okay. But Americans have been unhappy ever since he wrote that piece of crap. So, okay. All right, guys. Any other, Stuart, you've been muted this whole time, and I'm going to have to call you out just because I love you and I can't do this alone, Stuart. I need help because I am like, wow, I've never read something like this. Yeah.
You did great, man. Honestly, like I didn't get through it. So I want to thank you for taking us on that journey. Like you said, there's some gold in here. And what's interesting is that most of it is from somebody else or from somewhere else. And again, I had some issues, when I think part of it was the copy that I downloaded that I got from Apple Books this morning. It didn't expand out and I couldn't quite read it all. My eyes were straining and and all I kept focusing on was these passages in the beginning about, people were unhappy. It was almost the implication that, there was no, people were happy. Everybody was happy before Thomas Jefferson. And, once he, put that concept of the pursuit of happiness, well, then it just screwed us all up or whatever. And I just couldn't get my head around that. But as I was reading through and skimming through, and even honestly, as you had stuff on screen, and I was just kind of gleaning some of the headlines and subheadings and things like that, it hit me that, a lot of this is almost contrary to a lot of the prosperity mindset things that we've been learning, right? And I put in the chat, like he seems like he's the anti-Goddard, and this concept of, you can't be happy and all this sort of limiting verbiage, and the only way is, is his method or whatever it is. I don't want to totally knock everything, because I do agree, like you're saying, and some of the things that you highlighted. And even just, the concept of, if you're always measuring, look, I think for the average person, maybe we could call this like the mediocre person's guide to happiness, right? Or like if you're not, you know, spiritually evolved, then this might be a good path to help you appreciate your life more or something like that. Because I like the concept of, okay, if you're always comparing yourself against the ideal, then maybe you can fall short. But I've always considered myself an idealist, right? So why can't you like hold the ideal as the pursuit, right? Hold the ideal as where you want to be, and in the same breath, count your blessings or acknowledge your achievements, right? And so I'm not one of these either or kind of people like that. And I mean, I get it that if you are just sort of depressed and hate your life, and you know that this might be like a decent way to help you appreciate where you're at, kind of thing. But I don't know, like when I get you know, the pursuit of happiness, and Bob had put in there that it was actually originally it was like life, liberty, and property, and then he changed it to the pursuit of happiness. And I want to say that happiness is almost like perfection, in the sense that, you know, it's something to strive to, but that doesn't mean that you can't be happy in the moment as you strive towards the absolute ideal of something either. The whole getting rid of attachment, getting rid of needs, you know, I mean, that's kind of the cornerstone of not only personal development, but, you know, Buddhism and spirituality and things like that. And of course, Oren in Pitch Anything was talking about, you know, getting rid of the concept of needs. And then when you come from that place, you know, then your pitch is better. And
He said want nothing.
right, and your life is better, right? I kept thinking about Napoleon Hill and you know, a burning desire coupled with the detachment from outcome, right? But I almost would call his obsessive passion a burning desire, and so I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing, right? I mean, I guess it, you know, if it's something that impacts you in a negative way, okay, maybe, but right, the concept of achieving greatness is holding that burning flame of desire. Go Missy, that burning flame of desire, and at the same time, in the same moment, which may seem contrary to some people, but in that same moment, not being attached to the outcome. It's also a very stoic approach as well. So I don't know. I mean, there are things in here that I thought were cool. I don't want to totally bash the guy, and I definitely, you know, didn't want to come off like I just hated this. I just had a hard time getting through the first bit for sure. And I know Virginia's not.
Maybe we're just too highbrow. You know, we're reading stuff from like the 1800s and like, you know, yeah.
The last thing I want to say about this, because going through, and I see that Lindsay has her hand up, and I definitely want to give her the floor. But the chapter headings, or those subheadings about wanting empowers us, right? This is the exact opposite of what Neville teaches us. This is the exact opposite, right? About, you know, law of attraction and things like that, you know, if you stay in that mindset of the want, then you're always wanting, right? And it's not about the having, it's about the wanting. So I don't agree with that. I take issue with that. Then he says wanting creates abundance. I would absolutely stand firm in opposition of that. I think wanting creates wanting, and wanting fosters a mindset of exactly what this guy is saying he's against, right? Because if you're always wanting, then you don't appreciate what you have, right? So there's a lot of sort of contradictory stuff in this to me. And then wanting is no scarcity, but if you don't feel scarcity, then you shouldn't want. So I don't know. It was tough for me to get through. I did appreciate the little gems, and thank you for highlighting that stuff. And I'm gonna pass the mic to our friend Lindsay.
All right, let's do that. And I think Ingrid deliberately misspelled translation, so I double misspelled it. Hey, Lindsay.
I just wanted to say on Jen's session today, I listened to this book. However, I thought you said Thomas Edison, and I was like, that's why I put in the chat. I was like, well, maybe they're Tesla fans. But I was like, I was like, but it's been a while since I went over it. I was like, no. And then I went, no, he said Jefferson, not Edison.
Well, that's why you need to read the written word, because the audiobook thing.
Well, I know.
You're right.
I took notes, but it's been a while since, and we've read some really great books since then, so it didn't come, right back to memory. And I didn't have a chance to do it to catch up, but I was like, no, Thomas Jefferson, that's way different than Edison. So I agree, totally agree.
Well, when Thomas Edison wrote the Declaration of Independence, he was hanging out with Uncle Ben, and he burned the rice. All right.
That's why I bet they're like, what in the hell is wrong with her?
Did you ever see the movie Playing with Fire?
Yes.
Yeah, where the one guy, the Hispanic guy, he's always misquoting like these great quotes, and he screws it up every time. It was hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that a few times. But sounded right coming out of my mouth, but well, none of us have arrived, or I haven't arrived. Maybe I'll have.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, what Stuart was just saying, need and want are just by degree the same affirmation of lack.
Yes.
Okay. So okay. And then on the hierarchy of needs, we could say, all right, air, food, water, needs. Okay. Love, companionship, need, want, right? So we're getting higher in there. So I don't know, but here's the thing with much of university education these days is there's a whole lot of self-importance. And if you can actually look and see what's workable, you start hearing all the contradictions, like we heard again. So we're not going to pursue happiness, but we are going to, run or do the ice skating thing and win the race. Okay. So all right. So we're going to pursue something or not.
I think happiness is an inside job.
Yeah. Well, he said that in the book, right? So that's an internal pursuit. In fact, that's a direct quote from somebody else who he was quoting, not himself. But where is the quote? Let me find it. In the wanting world, I don't know. That's just friggin' weird.
I don't think where is
I'm looking. So I play the long game. Well, that's a pursuit. All right, where's the one? Shit. Sorry, I lost it, guys. But Missy, Bob.
I just want to go off on a different tack, if we could, talking about needs and wants, because the classic mantra of marketing is you have to change the consumer's want into a need in order to get him to buy. Now, he seems to be standing things on their head here, which may be why we're all confused here. But then you stood things on their head too, John, when you say, you don't want to go from a point of neediness. Yet you feel, I need this sale, I need this. So, the whole idea of commerce is exchange, that we're going to both benefit from what we're giving up to each other. I have something you want, you have something I want, we exchange, we're both better off, we're happier. So I'm trying to maybe force the square peg into the round hole here, because Stuart put his finger on something very interesting. What's the real difference between a want and a need? Classically, a need is just a heavy want. Okay, your desire level is elevated when you make it into a need. And that's when you take action, when your want turns into a need. You just want something, you're willing to wait for it, perhaps. But if you need it, you'll do whatever is necessary to get your hands on it.
Okay.
So, in this book, I don't know. He's warped everything when you look at it from this perspective. Without needs, why would we ever give anything up? Why would we ever sacrifice if we didn't need something?
Well, need is a statement of necessity, right? Survival needs, right? I think needs are, I think people kick the word need around a lot erroneously. And I think if we can get off of that and just be conscious that, you've always had what you've needed. I mean, you're still here, right? You're not a corpse. So something's working. So, all right, enough with the need thing, right? Let's lighten it up a bit to a want. Let's lighten it up. So by degree, I see what you're saying. By the way, is that a picture of your uncle? Who is that? I see you.
Sitting in front of a $2 bill.
It's
Yeah.
Mr. Thomas Jefferson, President Thomas Jefferson.
Of course, it's Thomas Jefferson. I was just admiring his hair. I was admiring his hair and noticing how, yeah, I think if Bob grew his hair, it would look just like that. It's great.
One of the most brilliant minds in the history of the world,
Yeah.
of this entire lifespan of this planet.
Yeah.
And who is he vice president under?
My friend, my hero.
John Adams. So,
They were best friends and they made up.
Adams, that guy wanted to fight.
No,
I
he
love
didn't.
Adams.
I'll fight you if you say that. No, he didn't. He didn't want
Adams?
to fight. He didn't want to fight.
Oh man, he was not happy with the crown at all.
I'm not sure what you're thinking of.
John
He
Adams.
prevented the war. We'll have to
Well,
discuss this.
I'm not saying he was psychotic. I'm just saying that he was not happy with the crown. He was real pissed off. At least in the accounts that I've read. You know what? I'll have to dig into the letters. So we can have that. We can have an argument
Thomas
about that.
Jefferson letters, yes.
So here's the product of this book is that now we're arguing, like 200-year-old history about personalities.
And beer. Isn't there
Beer.
a beer named after him?
Yeah, there you go. No, that's Sam.
No,
That's Samuel.
Sam
Adams.
Adams.
his
Yeah.
cousin.
I'm Canadian. I'm sorry.
That was his
Please don't
drunken
name
his
any
drunken
time.
nephew, Sam.
Ah, Sammy. Sammy.
Okay. Good times, you guys. Good times.
We
Linda.
just got Adams pretty quick here.
He brought ice cream to America. I mean, that alone.
Jefferson.
Jefferson did.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
What do they call being on the B? Like Beelzebub, not Beelzebub. It became-
Beelzebub, the devil? What?
Not Beelzebub. It had something with B.
All right. Look at this. Look at where this conversation has gone. Thanks, Benjamin. Okay. Linda, save us, Linda, and then we're going to stop this whole meeting. We're going to
Ben
stop.
and Jerry.
Ben and Jerry. Well, all I can say is I'm glad this wasn't the first personal growth book that I read. Because yeah. And like you said, John, I mean, maybe because we've read, he's hiding under the desk. Maybe because we read, Neville Goddard and we read Napoleon Hill. We have a different perspective on, yeah. So this was just like, and I'm not reading it. I have the Audible and it's just like blah, 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 blah in my ear. I mean, there was some good points like Stuart said, and I also listened to chapter 2. It does get a little better, but
Okay.
it basically repeats chapter 1
Oh, no.
in a different way.
No. Make a point.
Yeah.
To the back of the room.
Make the point.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right,
But
one more
anyway.
week, guys. Here's the thing: we're gonna get to the halfway point. 2 more chapters this week. We're gonna come back here and we're gonna vote after reading
Okay.
2 more chapters. Continue or throw the thing into the garbage and delete it from your Kindle. We're gonna vote. All right, and it's gonna be hardcore, yay or nay, and that's it. We're gonna have a democracy. Damn it, we're gonna have a friggin' democracy.
No democracy. No democracy.
No democracies. Benevolent dictatorship. That is the best form of government.
Public.
It's just not
Republic.
sustainable.
You can keep it.
All right. Guys, we're done. Thank you for whatever just happened
90-90.
here. I love you all, and Ingrid's yawning.
Well, sorry.
All right. Hey, that's pretty slick, Ingrid. You got the whole scan thing, the QR.
Isn't it crazy?
Does it
Do I
actually
feel on
work?
top of my game or
Hold on.
what?
Hold on a second here. I got to see if this thing actually works.
Yeah, now test it.
Ingrid, tell them what that's called.
Look at that. Look at that.
Isn't that insane? And you can
Look at that.
scroll
That
it
just
now.
happened.
Yeah,
That just
scroll it.
happened, you
Yeah,
guys.
and you can save it. And you can
Isn't it
send me your stuff.
brilliant? Ingrid's brilliant. Ingrid's brilliant. It's a
Ingrid knows
brilliant
stuff.
book.
I found
Ingrid-
it's amazing. It's so cool. And then I don't have to lose business cards. I never have to buy another one in my life. Like, how amazing is that? Plus, everyone just wants it because wants to try it because it's cool. So actually, you end up giving out your card more because half the people are just into it because it's cool.
It's kind of cool.
It is
Uh-huh.
kind of cool.
Until the grid goes down.
That's right, Ingrid.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, then we'll go back to, I have cards. But it's so amazing. And yeah, I'm just laughing. It's just amazing.
Wow.
Wow.
There's the highlight of our meeting tonight. All right, very good. Thank you all. Next week, we'll see what happens. Maybe, I'll give you a tour of the house or something. I don't know. We'll talk about something.